Two people are speaking. If one person is trying to communicate with the other person, but the person listening cannot understand what is being said, whose fault is it? Is fault the right word to use? Does the reason for the lack of communication lie on one side or the other?
If there's a source of distortion between the person speaking and the person listening, it's no one's fault. The distortion or the filter standing between the two of them needs to be removed.
And once removed, everything becomes crystal clear. Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome, game winners. Game of life winners. I really believe that. I mean, what more can we possibly be expected to do? Remember the guy that had the channel? Maybe he's still around. I haven't seen him in years. He'd say, "Welcome, deep divers." Always liked that guy. Just a little too friendly for me. Just didn't kind of mesh with where I was coming from. Always looking at the dark side. I wish I could be more like that guy. I'd love to walk around all day with a smile on my face and have all stress gone. And, I wanted to be a deep diver, but just a little too focused on the dark side. Guess he's still around. We wish him the best. So welcome to the old-fashioned radio show for March of 2022. Has anybody that's been watching Buddha at the gas pump and those the shiny happy people that give advice at the other channels, I really like the positivity. I really do. But have they addressed the dark side of this reality yet? I don't know how they keep ignoring the shiny happy people keep coming on, and there's this gigantic Godzilla filling up the entire room. The whole room stinks of its breath. The humidity level is about 99.5%. It reeks of its urine, and how do you ignore the dark that's here? We can use it. We have used it to tell us about ourselves. But if anybody ever finds, and I'm not just picking on Buddha at the gas pump or Buddha at the Wawa or whatever it's called, I don't know. These channels, Aaron, Abkey or whatever, I have yet to come across one that addresses the dark side. It is here. I'm sorry. It is to understand it, to use it, to see how it could be a reflection of ourselves, but to ignore it, I've always found is just a little bit strange. For the third grade truthers that are still addicted to the 1.25 exercise, they'll 1.25 me here, roll over to BitChute, go to Brand New Tube, see what the old man in the chair is saying, or if the old man in the chair is, he said all of us should be dead. So he might be dead. I mean, is the old man in the chair, is he still talking that everybody's going to be dead? I don't know. We gave up on that fear stuff a long time ago. But I do have kind of a breakthrough. I'm going to, hopefully this will be, I haven't even started the Free Voice video, but this should be the focus of the entire Free Voice video. Let me just get to it now for the 1.25 third grade reality junkies that have a whole lineup of BitChute, Brighteon, Odyssey, and other videos set up that will talk about how everybody's going to be killed soon. The term that became very popular about a year ago related to renting of the movie action Jacksonation was the word genocide. Probably old man in a chair used it. It was thrown around. Let's look at my family and how things stand in March of 2022. I'm the only one that didn't do it, but let's look at my family. Okay, you've never seen a group of more old, decrepit, overweight, unhealthy, and basically just going on and on with the same exact synonym. If you look, when we meet up at Buca de Beppo or Carrabba's, if I were to put a barbell up a 5-pound barbell between the pile of gnocchi and the pile of baked ziti, they wouldn't even know what it was. None of them have ever touched one in their entire lives. They think it was the monolith from 2001. If I just put up a barbell between the pile of gnocchi. Now, these people are still alive. They're still alive. It's incredible. It's incredible. Not only did the Big C not take them out, they went to the movie, then they rented the movie again, and then there was a third Action Jacksonation starring Carl Weathers that they rented. They're still alive. I'm not advocating it, obviously. I'm keeping it real. Gonna run around and promote Old Man in a Chair and genocide and bullshit like that. Hey, if millions of people start falling over next week, then I'll come back here and say I was wrong. Okay, let me get to what I think is a pretty big breakthrough. You know how we've been struggling for years trying to understand the use of the emerald green, mostly in movies? Well, I think I have it figured out. There was another channel that kind of cemented my viewpoint. I'm not prepared to mention that other channel's name right now. There was a video sent to me saying, Matt, I know you've been researching the green. That person who emailed me, it was the group of the really hardcore group of primal hackers. They did not know that I had already come to certain conclusions about what I think the green is, but I was still doing my research. I hadn't presented anything. They presented another channel to me. And remember what I said about a month ago, where we're not really looking to people to tell us what is what, or you're not looking to Matt to tell you anything. You're just looking to Matt and others to confirm what you already know. Well, that exact thing happened. I already had an idea of what the green was. This video was presented to me, and it just confirmed or cemented, and actually took it much farther. It's a great video, but based on me recommending other channels in the past that immediately, for some weird reason, turned back on me and tried to bring my channel down and doing all this weird stuff after I recommended the channel and put it on the map. I'm not recommending channels right off the bat anymore before they're fully vetted. So that's, unfortunately for this person, I'm not going to mention the channel until I've seen 20, 30 videos and vetted it for months. But the video I saw confirmed what I was thinking, and had just come to that conclusion about a week and a half, 2 weeks before I saw it, before the primal hackers sent it to me, and it just hit me. And in this video took it even further. But what it is, you have to have a space. What it is the green represents the illusion of this reality. I'm not going to get into it too much here, just a few more minutes, because I think the entire Free Voice video is going to be about this topic. But I don't know, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, after researching what this green is for years, having, 100 emails sent to me by extremely smart people with a variety of different viewpoints. Some may have even suggested it represents the illusion of this Maya existence, but it just didn't, it didn't click with me until recently, and cemented by this other video that I saw. The explanations as to what the green represents were all over the board. And people did talk about the green represented with heart chakra. The only thing I had come up with initially was when people had sent me some of their analysis in email related to heart chakra. That did resonate with me. I said, yeah, it's some way it is related to heart chakra. But I didn't really take it further than that until about a week and a half ago. And the video that I keep talking about, that I'm not going to mention again, and I'm not going to link to the channel for a few months until it's vetted, they actually combined what we had been thinking regarding the green representing the illusion and the heart chakra, and combined it and took it further than anything I had come up with. But just another minute or two before we go on to other topics, I'll talk about it tomorrow. Hopefully, I think Rob said he can post something a little bit later tomorrow or Sunday evening on Free Voice. So about 2 weeks ago, I'm watching a live performance music video on YouTube. The band The Cure, and the song's called A Forest. And it's a performance from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's not the original music video, The Cure, A Forest. I think that's the first video Robert Smith ever put out. He looks like some high school kid. I don't even recognize him. This video goes back like 30 some years. I'm like, that's Robert Smith. He just looks like a normal kid. Like when did you evolve into Edward Scissorhands? I don't mean he could be the nicest guy in the world. Shouldn't cut him up or anything, but he doesn't look the way he used to look. He evolved into a strange look. We'll just leave it at that. I didn't recognize him. So it's not the original. It's something from 10 or 15 years ago. So they're playing and the mist machines are going off. I guess there's a live audience, and that emerald green starts going all throughout the mist, and I forget exactly how it was presented. And it just hit me. I don't know why it just hit me. I just went, that lime emerald green, that shade of green represents the illusion of this reality itself. And of course, I can anticipate the people rising up and throwing the rubber duckies and pushing the bubbles aside. And they're like, Matt, it took you years to come up with that. All you need to do, dude, is watch The Matrix, and that Matrix code flows, and it's the same colored green, the Matrix, the illusion. Yeah, I'm first of all, I probably was aware of that. I don't think I just fell off the truth or turnip truck. It's not that simple, right? It is not that simple. The way this color green or the emerald green has been presented in media in many different ways, and in some sense, it seems to be almost contradictory ways, like the lighthouse depicted at the end of The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio, or how Satan was Satan was depicted in John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness as that color itself. It's not as simple. Okay, if it always was like the Matrix code and every single use of it was a Matrix type illusion, yes, I ultimately kind of arrived at that's what's being said, but it's more complicated than that. It is related to heart chakra. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but obviously, some dummy threw the rubber ducky saying all you had to do was watch The Matrix 1, Matt, and we know what the green is. Yeah, once you assign the presentation of the emerald green to reality announcing the illusion, the whole thing is an illusion, then it's easy to go back and see that the Matrix code was saying exactly that. But before you arrive at the destination, it's not that simple. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. I'm not sure what ad sponsors will be part of this old-fashioned radio show, but there is going to be a public service announcement, kind of like what needs to be delivered now to game winners, to Game of Life winners. And it's very simple and to the point, and it's just a reminder from the Real Ad Council that if you look out your window and turn on your television, and what is being presented to you is the weirdest, strangest, most effed up thing you've ever could possibly imagine. You don't understand the world you live in. Your reality is completely broken down. What's being presented on the news or in media, or even how your friends and family are behaving, is something you could have never predicted or have foreseen even 5 years ago. And you're like, what the heck is this? And what do I do? If you're having these feelings and this perception, know you're exactly where you need to be. Know you're a game winner. Know you're standing on the bank, rooted as the damn ship of fools sails farther and farther down the river of insanity, and those on the ship of fools morph and change with the new reality. It's all normal to them. If it's abnormal to you, you're a winner. You don't want it to appear normal. If it ever does appear completely normal to you, the way Russia-Ukraine's being presented, what Joe Biden's saying about this, if it all just becomes normal and you settle back into that, then you've been body snatched, literally. The weirder you see it, the more normal, meaning what a human being really should evolve into, or how much you've detached from the reality, how much you have won, is basically a X and Y graph as to how weird you think everything is. It's literally that simple from our perspective. It is. It's great news. To me, and a lot of smart people, I believe, agree, reality itself is constantly changing and flowing and morphing. And our senses tell us how real and stable and solid everything is. And it's, if you could observe it from a different perspective, it's probably completely the opposite. And I think we go along with a lot of these changes. Most when reality changes or shifts, or this does absolutely relates to what people call the Mandela effect, or if they're Mandela affected, it all is in the same conversation. Many things change and we go along with them as well. But because of the things we've noticed and we've observed the actions of the creeps, and that's told us about ourselves, we have been working hard, whether you're just researching reality or you're a reality junkie or you're investigating fake events like a third or fifth grade truther, all of that, you're still acting to detach in some way from it. You're still acting in a way that helps you see through the illusion. So it just all becomes stranger and stranger to us. But think of your brother-in-law or the guy that serves you your coffee or whoever. Most people, 99 point whatever, are right in the middle of the ship of fools. And they're not in any way, in any part of their lives, have they ever even tried to detach or even assume there could be a trick or a deception being played. So as everything changes, they immediately reset to it or go along with it. And I think the creeps in some way have a fundamental understanding at the metaphysical level as to how reality works. And in some way, they've been messing with it. Exactly how, we'll never know. What exactly CERN is, we'll never know. But it doesn't work on those of us we have a million different names for it. Dropped veils, dived off the ship of fools, swimming to the shore. It just doesn't work on us. So it gets, from our perspective, looking out at it, it gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And what reality should be, it's more fixed to us. The ship has sailed. We go to board, my favorite example of all time, of course, I keep using it over and over. We go to board the Pacific Princess. We expect the cruise to be something that we always remember. We're always attaching or rooted to an old reality. We have a certain expectation. We've been on the ship before. Why would it have changed radically? We'll be greeted by, what is her name, Julie. Vicky will be running around. Friendly Isaac will be there with our favorite cocktail, which he'll remember. And, Gopher will play 5-card stud poker with Gopher, and the doctor will be creeping around. We expect a certain thing, and then we go to get on the ship, and it's like, Julie's like, I've become a man. I still have more treatments. And like, what? What happened to the ship? And Isaac's like, yes, come. Isaac will now take you to your cabin. And what sort of lube do you prefer? What? What do you mean? No, Isaac does this with all passengers now. You pick the lube you want, and Isaac will take care of you. I don't want that from Isaac. What happened to the ship? This is insane. It's no different than what's happening with us. The ship's changed, man. We expect the old love boat that sailed into a relatively safe Puerto Vallarta. It don't exist no more. Be happy you don't go along. Your friends and family and cousin like, Isaac, I want the coconut oil lube. They expect the hand job from Isaac. Sure, there are more dignified examples and analogies, but it's memorable. More good news. It's all by design, in my opinion. It's all by design. Now, this could be debated amongst smart people, but to me, right now, this is crystal clear to me. It's all by design. No, Matt, don't you? These creeps came in and they threw reality off course. They hijacked it. Maybe they believe they hijacked it and believe in some way these losers are winners. But if you back up far enough, the original designer of the game board here, they didn't design it. They're not that powerful. If they might believe they've hijacked it and they're getting ahead, what makes us think that they have all the answers, these creeps, these dummies? They're probably more used, fooled, and manipulated than anybody else. It's all by design to me, meaning this whole reality. What I say, 6-8 weeks ago, it's a truck and tractor pull. The reality is a truck and tractor pull, where the truck pulls the weight. The weight, as the truck is pulling it through the mud, the weight shifts down towards the truck, which makes the physics of it impossible to haul. And then, truck, Ford, whatever, that's souped up to 1,000 horsepower, pulled it 20 feet. This Chevy pulled it 25 feet. So this Chevy wins. It's a truck and tractor pull because it gets harder and harder and harder in order to wake up more and more people. So more and more people just jump off ship and say, I've had enough of this. This is ridiculous. I'm going to go figure out who I really am. What was I having an email conversation? Was it with Gabrielle yesterday? So this reality is like an alarm clock. And I think there are alarm clocks designed to come on very softly. And then over time, they get louder and louder and louder. Those alarm clocks, they get louder as time goes on to wake you up. The reality gets more absurd, more obnoxious as time goes on. Reality breaks down, where at some point, any person that's at all, quote, real will be like, they don't have to see our videos. Just on their own, they'll be like, there's no way this is real. It gets louder and louder, which the equivalent of it gets more and more insane. It gets more and more absurd. The reality itself is designed to do this, so more and more people jump ship. This brings right back my filter theory, which I still don't have anybody that goes there. The filter, not the gefilte fish theory, the filter theory. We've all heard the theory God broke itself, or source creation was bored, or whatever your variation of it is, broke itself into trillions and trillions of pieces across different times and reality systems to have an experience, to experience itself and pain and joy and different things as individuals, and we're all one, and we've all heard that. Okay, that's my leading theory. But theory I've assigned to it, which I don't hear a lot of times put onto it, what I've put onto it, maybe there's 100 people that have written about this and I'm just not aware of it, but we assume God or source creation's perfect. Why? Why would anybody assume that? It puts the filter out, it puts out a trillion pieces of itself, and it only wants certain pieces back, the best back. I've talked about this before. There's a man might be really overweight. He wants to get rid of pieces of himself. He doesn't want them back. Come on, belly. I want my all the pieces. I want my belly back. No, he doesn't want his belly back. The source creation puts all the pieces out, and maybe there is a filter. Well, Matt, that implies what you don't judge or who succeeded, who didn't. Well, does it if we're all part of the same thing? Okay, we can go round and round on this. It gets quite philosophical and quite mind-boggling. But to me, there could be a filter. Why would God or source want the shit pieces of itself back? This is where I get into debates about the no consequences and consequences people. No consequences people. You're spiritually completely protected no matter what. And then part of me says, well, if as a spiritual being, maybe those that participate in The Sopranos and pull the fingernails out aren't real people, but as a real spiritual being with spiritual connections to higher self or what you call source or God, if you're running around with The Sopranos pulling fingernails out, and why would source creation or God want that part of itself back? It makes perfect sense there could be a filter. I don't know. It's not that hard to comprehend. Why, if God, the assumption, God must be perfect. Why? Why would anybody assume that? It's arrogant to assume. I'm not saying God's perfect or not. Source creation's perfect. I don't know. I'm saying this is a possibility that gets into one of those books. God wants you to do this, and God, to talk about what God wants? Like how arrogant, how pathetic. To all those people that have told me what God wants me to do because incredibly and magically they know God and intimately and they can speak for God. Now, that's not at all arrogant. I'll say back to them, God wants you to watch every single episode of Sigmund the Sea Monster. What? And Land of the Lost. And you need to learn to speak as the Sleestaks speak. It just is bizarre if I were to say that back to them. All right, guys, let's do a different segment here that's almost as profound as understanding if God's perfect or not and your role in the timeless cosmos. This is kind of similar to that. It's, and you can comment if you have great examples of this. I'll look for your comments. You're getting old when you go to watch an old movie and this person looks hot to you I'll give you an example. I was watching, I watch it once every few years, Rodney Dangerfield, Back to School. And I thought to myself, oh no, are you actually looking at Sally Kellerman as she looks good? Or, I mean, oh my gosh, you must be getting old. Now, when I first saw Back to School, Sally Kellerman, the teacher, that was the oldest, most decrepit looking thing in the world to me when I first saw the movie. And I went, oh, I started thinking about this topic. And I've thought about it when I saw the last time I saw the George C. Scott A Christmas Carol. Absolutely my favorite thing to watch around the holidays. The George C. Scott A Christmas Carol. The Ghost of Christmas Past. When I first saw that, I remember it was shown to us in 8th grade. That Ghost of Christmas Past was the oldest, ghoulish, grossest looking thing it looked like beyond my great grandmother. And I'm watching this and I'm going, if I ever get to the point where the Ghost of Christmas Past in the George C. Scott Christmas Carol looks attractive to me, Matt, would you like to take out the Ghost of Christmas Past? Yes. Oh my gosh. Will she really go out with me? Is she really going out? Then that, my friends, is the definition of getting old. It's now time for the old-fashioned radio show news segment. Nancy Pelosi marks St. Patrick's Day with poem by Bono about Ukraine. Nancy Pelosi marks St. Patrick's Day with poem by Bono about Ukraine. U2 singer's poem, read at the annual Friends of Ireland lunch, encompasses Irish mythology and the Russia-Ukraine war, all wrapped up in one shit sandwich. It doesn't say that here, but here's a picture. Joe Biden listens to Nancy Pelosi speak at the Friends of Ireland lunch in Washington, D.C. Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker for 420 years and one of the most powerful Democrat ghoul demons in the country, has marked St. Patrick's Day by reading aloud a poem by Bono that encompasses rich Irish mythology and the crisis in Ukraine. How are they? Can anybody help me out? How are they related? Here's the end of the poem. That's when saints can appear to drive out those old snakes once again, and they struggle for us to be free from the psycho in this human family. Ireland's sorrow and pain is now the Ukraine's, and St. Patrick's name now Zelensky. Let me read that again. And St. Patrick's name now Zelensky. Come to Zelensky's, the auto parts king. I make car parts for the American working man because that's what I am, and that's who I care about. In two other parts of that poem, Bono quotes or talks about evil has risen. Evil, he's not sympathizing or empathizing with anybody. It's a truth drop. Evil has risen through minions like Bono. Evil has risen. The snakes have been driven out. It's a prediction more than it is a poem of sympathy. I mean, Bono talking about evil has risen. This is like Count Dracula volunteering at your local county lever to be an EMT. The Count Dracula mobile, it's an ambulance. It looks kind of like the Batmobile. He's volunteered to be an EMT, and he specializes in suicide victims that have slit their own wrists. Count Dracula. This is the equivalent of what Bono's trying to do here. Bono, if you're listening, Bono, you have no business making these sort of statements, unless you're, as usual, being a puppet of the general Not-Nilk system and putting predictive programming down in a poem that's supposed to empathize or sympathize with Ukraine. Bono, thou art a villain. Why don't you go away and bother someone else? Now, I'm not sure what sort of entity Barbra Streisand is, what level or plane of hell she typically associates with, but at least she sticks to herself. I'll give her that. Barbara, if you're listening, at least you kind of go off on that Malibu beach, Malibute. You stick to yourself. You're not constantly like Bono and some of these other celebs kind of always trying to get up in our business. You can't turn around without Bono's involved in this and Bono's involved in that. At least Barbra Streisand, the hell demon she is, at least she's kind of sticking to herself. Gladys, when's Bono gonna leave our people alone? I don't know, baby. I just don't know. Okay, you 1.25ers, it has become official. The old-fashioned radio show, as usual, has completely devolved into the ridiculous and the absurd. I'm still looking at this Nancy Pelosi reading of the poem article. It's a big story. You can find it anywhere on the internet. And there is no, I've said this 1,000 times, guys, but there is no greater example or symptom of stalled century, some sort of artificial, unnatural, stalled century than Nancy Pelosi and this leadership in Congress that doesn't ever, not only doesn't, it doesn't die, it doesn't ever go away, it doesn't ever, it just is always there. Like this century stalled out. We were moved into some parallel bizarro world or something. I mean, and any one example on its own does not prove stalled century. Well, maybe Nancy Pelosi by itself does, because if anything were real, the second time or the third time that ghoulish thing was coming around the mountain, if anything were real, the lower levels or the younger people in Congress and the Senate would be like, we don't want to put this hated ghoul up. She's already proven. Talk about divisiveness. Talk about joining hands and bringing both sides of the aisle together. If anything were real, everybody would have said, no way are we going to put the Crypt Keeper up again. We need to at least, even if it's fake, make the outward presentation we're trying to work across the aisle. So the fact that, I mean, this is all gets into reality having to give itself away, the illusion having to give itself away. And this is our biggest, I don't want to go on a huge diatribe on this, guys, but our biggest frustration is it's so absurd. Just any one example, throw a dart. There are thousands of Post-it notes on every single wall, like the way that priest papered the inside of his apartment with pages of the Bible to keep out the demons in the omen. There are thousands of Post-it notes. Any one of them gives the reality away, yet people just don't see it. It is so frustrating, and this is our cross to carry. Some of you don't like that. I don't. I just think that is such a perfect way of describing it. This is our cross to carry in this life. You carry the frustration that you will be able to see the obvious and the ridiculous and the absurd, and your wife or your sister will never be able to see it. It is, to me, the definition of carrying our cross. New sponsor here. Look for the new Chuck Schumer Rocky Horror Picture apparel and novelty shops near you. Chuck Schumer Rocky Horror Picture apparel and novelty shops popping up in a city near you. Now, something related to Rocky Horror Picture, I'll tell you in a moment. I got some bad news. Personally, it's not that big of a deal at all, but it really destroyed my view of The Hunt for Red October. I didn't know it was the same damn guy. Some of you know where I'm going. But before we get into that, wouldn't you love, guys, to do a creep lineup, a ultimate creep lineup? Would Chuck Schumer be in that lineup? I think he would be for me. Is there a bigger creep in the world than Chuck Schumer? Oh my, Chuck, are you listening? Could you imagine de Blasio would be out there? I know there are bigger creeps, like Bono's a bigger creep and Melvin P. And I mean, but they're like demonic creeps that can like morph and appear inside a pentagram. And I'm not talking that level of Archduke of Hell. I'm talking like lower level creeps, just real police lineup, Fifth Precinct type stuff. Here, bring them on out. Schumer, de Blasio, Bill Maher, that little creep from that HBO show would be there. So speaking along the same lines, that other little creep, Real News Tonight or something with John Oliver. What a creep he is. And who else would be there along the news lines, like who I used to call the Skeleton Man, Scott Pelley, the Plastic Greasy Man, David Muir. I'd love to do a lower level. There's bigger creeps. Nancy Pelosi is more like a hell demon. She wouldn't be in this lower level creep lineup. But wouldn't that be fun? And then the one that we picked as the biggest creep, we could just pelt with rotted tomatoes and lettuce heads, but we just pelt them all with rotted vegetables. What I was going to say related to the Rocky Horror Picture Show was I saw it when I was in high school, and it's the weirdest movie of all time to me. And I know I use those exaggerated terms a lot, but it could be the weirdest movie of all time. My friend took me down to a midnight. You've got to come down to South Street, Philadelphia. When we were seniors in high school, this midnight showing, people in the aisles and throwing stuff and the dancing and it's Tim Curry is the actor. And I didn't know it was the guy from The Hunt for Red October. That's where this story is going. It didn't ruin The Hunt for Red October, but I was watching The Hunt for Red October, which is, even though it has Alec Baldwin, you want to talk about a creep lineup. Even though it has Alec Baldwin, I can look through it. I don't know. He's such a good actor in that regard. Hey, I give credit where credit's due. I mean, Alec Baldwin to me is right there alongside Bono as one of just the nastiest things walking around on what we call the earth. But for some reason, I see the character Jack Ryan, and it is one of my favorite movies. So I'm watching it. And you know where I'm going with this. The Doctor. I went, oh no. I didn't realize it for 30 years. The Doctor is the vampire, the Annie, the really bizarro vampire with the lipstick from Rocky Horror Picture Show. If you've never seen it, this is one of the weirdest, most disturbing characters of all time, film history. And I went, I didn't know, it just hit me. I'd seen it 25 times. That's the Annie character from Rocky Horror Picture Show's the Doctor? What? Oh no. Go away. I mean, anyway, I had just a bad experience. My friend took me down to Rocky Horror Picture on South Street in Philadelphia. It starts, the damn movie comes on at midnight. And I had like a physics exam or a chemistry exam. I was just tired from the week, or played sports and studying. And, Friday night, I'm ready to go to sleep. And, as a young man, of course, I guess I had a little bit more vigor, but it was a long week. And then the weirdness starts with Rocky Horror Picture. And then there's this, I haven't seen it since. But there seems to be a segment where the Tim Curry, Annie, vampire, weird ass thing sings a song. And then I think he follows with another song. And I said to myself, if he sings one more song, one more horrible song, and it's not like upbeat, like "Do in the Time Warp" and all that crap, I was like, I'm just going to go to sleep. I don't care. And he comes forth with another song, and I just sat back in the damn chair and fell asleep and passed out. And anyway, it was not a fun experience. I flipped by it on the TV a few times, and just for the sheer, it's like watching a train wreck. I watch 5 to 10 minutes of it and then turn it off. This was the beginning of Susan Sarandon's illustrious career. But then it just hit me the other day, and that is the Doctor from The Hunt for Red October. Oh, no. Time for more old-fashioned radio news headlines, recent from March 18th, 2022. How prosthetic penises in shows like HBO's Minx reinforce existing stereotypes and taboos. The media, it seems, has become fascinated with prosthetic penises while skirting the issue of why filmmakers and actors are avoiding actually bearing it all. Entertainment Weekly recently published an interview with actor Taylor Zakar Perez, teasing the piece with a headline about Perez bearing it all as a nude model in the first episode of HBO's Max's scandalous new show, Minx. The real scandal, in my view, whoever wrote this, is not the promised nudity, but the way it's misrepresented. Perez never actually fully appeared nude in the episode. He wears a prosthetic penis, as Matt could add, as Marky Mark must have in Boogie Nights. As prosthetic penises have become more common in film and on TV, I've watched publications eagerly document the trend with cheeky headlines. The power of the dong. the power of the dong. The year the penis was unleashed in Hollywood. What? How the sausage gets made inside Hollywood's prosthetic penis craze. This is news to me, ladies and gentlemen. Now, at the end of Boogie Nights, I certainly didn't think that was Marky Mark's real member. I mean, they had to make it. They made it look a little bit rubbery, like a Stretch Armstrong, and then it wasn't completely real. But hey, the whole movie's about that thing. You had to at least get a glimpse of it at the end of Boogie Nights. But I didn't know that this was happening across the board in Hollywood. I mean, what the heck is going on? And somebody listening to this is going, what the heck is going on with this radio show? Started with a very serious conversation about the fundamental and metaphysical nature of reality itself, how reality shows you clues to reveal its true nature as an illusion or a maya, which gives you clues about the true nature of yourself, evolving or devolving down to prosthetic penises. Guys, what am I supposed to come up with every single time I do a video, I'm supposed to come up with some massive reality reveal, or I don't know. I probably have revealed as much of reality as almost as I'm capable. It will turn more to prosthetic penises as time goes on. What the hell am I supposed to come up with all the time? We're game winners. We don't need to do much more. I'm not joking. We're game winners. What more do we have to do? We can't quite fit through that eye of the needle yet. Maybe not, but see, most of us here are not 95. We have a little bit more time to work on whatever tiny little bit left. We mostly game winners. Let's go over the elements of game winners, guys. It's pretty simple. We don't have to be perfect here. I think you're born into this mess, this absolute mess, that you would have to be perfect. When the guy down your cul-de-sac doesn't see one damn thing as to what's really going on, but we have to be perfect. It starts with a general sense of dropping veils, of just being able to see through the constant presentation of fraud, manipulation, and bullshit. Okay, that's what we did for almost 8 to 10 years. Then you get into the nature of reality itself, and it is not nearly as real as it appears to be. It's the green, the emerald green, the maya, the illusion, the dream. You get into philosophical conversations that you go to sleep at night, it's the dream. There's all these religious or occult or esoteric texts like the Tibetan Book of the Dead that say after you die is a dream. So why would we think the sandwich in the middle or the meat in the middle of the sandwich is not a dream? Dream on this side, dream on that side, dream in the middle. It's all, and it's probably multi-leveled. What you think is death is probably not final. There's probably many more steps after that. It's a long journey. There's a lot of time in the cosmos, right? It's got forever. There's no rush in what it's trying to accomplish in you, or your higher self is trying to accomplish for you, or your God is trying to. There's no rush. It always has been, always will be. Time is on its side. There ain't no rush. So, death, that's it. The final heaven, that's it. No, there's probably a whole lot more steps and things to do and places to go, and even realities where you think you're in the final reality and you're not quite there yet. It's just, hey, we progress. The dream in bed, the waking world, that's even more fucked up than the dream after death. It's okay. It's okay. But all we can do is master this reality. Okay, I'm not really able to master what happens through the portal of death yet. Okay, I'm not there yet. We're not, okay, fine. We need to be aware of this or that. And okay, but this reality, you're a game winner. We've mastered it. We don't play by its rules. We don't look to its metrics for success. We've mastered it. Carry yourself like you have. Walk through your Walmart like you have. Don't be arrogant. Don't be like Yul Brynner in the 10 Commandments, which is coming up very soon, I think. When is that? Easter coming up this year. One of my favorites. I never miss the 10 Commandments. So it is written, so it shall be done. Moses, you will never have Nefertiri. Hey, don't act like that guy. You're way more powerful than that guy. Just carry yourself as such. The best part about that movie, The 10 Commandments, is they actually show you a gigantic truth drop. They show you how the pyramids were really built. They show thousands and thousands of famished and half-dead, emaciated slaves pulling with ropes, and they show old women. It was Moses' mother almost got trapped under. Was it Yosheva, whatever? She's down there. Old women in their 70s and 80s were down there greasing the blocks with the lard and fat from animals. You grease the blocks as the huge hordes of emaciated, half-dead slaves pull the blocks. It's a truth. It shows you, of course, how they were built. Makes perfect sense. And guys, in a video soon, I'm going to have to address that segment of the YouTube truth community that comes up and puts things forth like inherited buildings. Philadelphia City Hall was just here. It was inherited, but nobody noted that in a diary. Or they said that similar things about Stonehenge, or, oh, Matt, don't you know there's old pictures of cranes working on Stonehenge? Oh, my God, that's right. Oh, that changes everything. That in no way would be the system showing you what it wants you to see, so you will be fooled and manipulated. That's just impossible. We've never learned our lesson in that regard, have we? Oh, pictures of Stonehenge with cranes? Oh, we caught him. Oh, we caught him. Did you ever think, have you ever heard me say this, that if you find the old pictures in black and white of Stonehenge with the cranes, then that's what they want you to believe, and you're taking the bait? Have you ever heard me say that? I don't mean to be, Matt, you can be very condescending, I'm sorry, but the same things and themes come up with the Great Pyramids, that somehow, Matt, don't you know that the Illuminati and the powers that be here built them in the early 1800s to put forth some massive ruse on the world? And yeah, that makes perfect sense too. That they were built in the 1800s or the late 1800s by the Illuminati. And Matt, don't you know there are YouTube channels that show you how these giant blocks can be moved without diesel generators and without cranes? Oh, that's not falling into the trap exactly what the reality wants. No. Yeah, you can go watch videos, 4K walking tour videos of the Great Pyramid. What's it called? The Khifa, Mia Khalifa pyramid. Go watch the 4K walking tour. And then go watch YouTube videos of, I climbed the Great Pyramid, a guy with a camera or a GoPro strapped to his head. And then he did days in prison. There's people climbing it. Then you can see the aerial view that the Great Pyramid is 8 segments. It's not 4. 8 segments so precise that it's not even detectable viewing it from the ground. It's not even detectable viewing it in certain light. Guy climbs the Great Pyramid, or the Khafre, Khufu, or the Mia Khalifa, whatever I forget what each one is called. But there's only a tiny height difference between what's called the Great Pyramid and the other one. I think the Great Pyramid is Khafre. I think the other one's Khufu, whatever. But as the person's climbing it, you see the blocks. You see the weathering. Okay? Now, I'm not prescribing to anything that some university professor at Oxford or Cambridge says about the Great Pyramid. You know, they could be an element of reality itself. This reality might only have been here. The entire reality potentially has only been here for 300 or 400 or 500 years. I don't take anything off the table. I will appreciate, or I will take seriously, anybody that puts forth a conclusion about things like the Great Pyramids and the impossible architecture that's outside the reality bookends. Inside the reality bookends, that the Illuminati came along, built them in the 1800s with some sort of technology that supposedly didn't exist, but even more so, it's like the inherited buildings. Nobody was living in Cairo at that time. There wouldn't be thousands and thousands of people writing down in journals and notes that this group of people came in here and they started building pyramids in 1820 or 1860, and nobody noted that, and it was all perfectly covered up by the Illuminati. Come on, man. I'll enter to anybody that gives me an explanation for these pyramids that's outside the bookends, I'll pay attention to. If it's inside the bookends and it has to fit in what the senses tell us and the known reality, then that's bullshit. I'm not going to waste my time on that. That's why what you get from 99% of Egyptologists or archaeology professors or tenured professors at Cambridge, Oxford, Wesleyan, Vassar, Bard's College, and all other institutions that breed assholes, they only can give you inside the reality bookends. They'll never even risk going outside the reality bookends. They keep coming up with the same things, just like I was telling you. I didn't get to that video yet. The lecture from this esteemed neuroscientist. I hadn't seen anybody lecture about the brain and where consciousness comes from in 25 or 30 years. I never watched a lecture, but I guess at some point I investigated it when I was in college or whatever. And they don't know anything more today than they knew 30 years ago. They're still looking inside the pile of cholesterol for how consciousness spawns. They're not willing to ever go outside the reality bookends, that consciousness comes from somewhere else. It's like a jigsaw puzzle of 400 pieces and they have 50 pieces. They keep playing with the same 50 pieces, wondering why they can't get the full puzzle. I mean, it's the same, but they're tenured. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose the cocktail parties where Jared comes and serves, and then they get a nice little action from one of the co-eds in the back when that their wife doesn't know about it, and they have a comfortable lifestyle. They don't want to ever go outside the bookends. They're frauds. They won't ever put anything forth that's truly big thinking about where the pyramids came from or where consciousness comes from. They're complete frauds. My dream would be to debate these academic eggheads on any of these topics. Not that I'm some genius. You know what we have on our side? It's so powerful. Common sense. Just pure common sense. They can't operate inside common sense. There wouldn't be a reason for being. They wouldn't have the need for the position. If you're an Egyptologist at Wesleyan or Colgate, you have to make it seem complicated, or you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror after making love to your wife and think what you do in life is actually valuable. You wouldn't have a reason for being if it was so simple, or if you came forth with the conclusion that we can't truly understand, it falls outside the reality bookends and we'll never truly understand. Then why are you working here, sir? You're fired. Well, if they're tenured, I guess they can't be fired, but they need to, it's their own self-worth. They have to make them after they make love to their wives or whatever they make love to, just like the American Psycho looking in the mirror when he was with those two prostitutes, they have to create a self-worth for themselves so they feel valuable when in fact what they do is completely worthless. Do you think there are any Egyptologists from the Ivy League listening? Columbia, Brown, Dartmouth, Penn, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. Did I miss anybody? Do you think they listen? I doubt it. But if you're listening, please, can we have a debate on any of these topics? Or if you don't want it to be a public debate where it potentially could be embarrassing for you, I'll book us into a room. That translates, I'll book us into a room. We can debate it there, even off camera. I'll book us into a room, you and me. And then potentially when we're finished, you won't know what planet you're living on. If anybody's rising up and clearing the bubbles, you're right. It'll never happen. Not that they're not going to debate me. Of course they're not going to debate me. But I mean, just getting through to them will never happen. One thing we know, it's almost like we live in different reality bubbles. Those that run in these circles and those that run in the mainstream circles and believe Fox News and believe CNN and go to the cocktail parties and hobnob with the professors in academia. Their reality bubbles are so different from ours at this point. One group is fully standing in the middle of the ship of fools in the river of insanity. Another group is completely off the ship. I could actually, if somebody agreed to it, no one's going to agree to debate me. Nobody's listening to this, of course. But I'm just saying, if it ever happened and I did book us into a room, I wouldn't be able to get through to them. I know that. It doesn't matter how perfect my argument, how much I could break them down. It doesn't matter. They would not ever see what you can see or what I can see. And I'm certainly not going to come around to what Neil deGrasse Tyson says about the cosmos. So neither of us are going to get anywhere anyway. So, obviously, I don't believe that if I took one of these people and we book us into a room, I don't believe that they would come out the other side not knowing what planet they're on. I understand that. I wouldn't be able to get through to them at all. The common sense I would present would go in one ear and out the other. In fact, and they would think I'm crazy when we were done. Hopefully it would be separate beds. They would call the white coats on me the moment we checked out. Of course, I don't believe I'd be able to get through to them. That's also carrying our cross. Thanks for listening, guys.